Okay, we're going to go over homework that was due today. So I'm going to do 22 first. 2a squared minus a minus 21 equals 0. For this one, you're going to multiply 2 times 21 is negative 42. Factors of negative 42 that add up to 1. And that's going to be negative 7 and 6. Then you're going to rewrite the problem. 2a squared, instead of writing negative a, you're going to write negative 7a plus 6a minus 21. Then you're going to factor by grouping, and you're going to pull out an a, and you get 2a minus 7. Over here, you're going to pull out a 3, and you're going to get 2a minus 7 also. Now, these are set equal to 0, so you're going to take each answer, x plus 3, set it equal to 0, and 2a minus 7 equals 0. If you just heard a burp, it was Betsy Bovey going by in the hallway, I believe. Who? Oh, sorry, it was Jordan. Jordan who? Oh, all right. So, looking at this, we're going to get a equals negative 3, and a equals, we're going to add 7, and divide by 2, so 7 halves will be your answers. If I look down at my answers here, question number 22 is going to be 3.5 and negative 3, which checks with my answers up here. Okay, so if you that's how you do this number 22. Number 25. Again, you can pause the video at any time to look at the work. 2n squared minus 5n equals 12, but we're going to bring this 12 over, so we've got to go minus 12 equals 0. Again, we have to do the long method here. 2 times 12 is negative 24. Add up to negative 5, that's 8 and 3. Negative 8, negative 3. Now that's not your answer. You have to rewrite your problem. 12 equals 0. And then this breaks up into groups. Factor by grouping. Take a 2n out. N minus 4. Take a 3 and 3 out. And you get n minus 4 equals 0. And once again, you take the two answers, the n minus 4, set it equal to 0, that'll get you n equals 4. And take the 2n plus 3, set that equal to 0, subtract 3 from both sides, divide by 2, and you get negative 3 halves. Halves, which is negative 1.2. Okay. The next question is 6m squared. But again, this is on the wrong side, so we need to bring it over by subtraction. Minus 13m minus 28 equals 0. These are not divisible by anything, so we're going to have to do the long method. 6 times negative 28. Okay, I just did some calculations, and that's going to be 21 times 8. 21 times 8, and 21 is negative. Again, rewrite your problem. 6m squared minus 21m plus 8m minus 28 equals 0. And we're going to have, take out a 3m here. And you have 2m minus 7. You take out an 8 here, and you have 2, or not an 8, sorry, a 4. The 4 out here, and you have 2m minus 7. So that's going to give you two things you can set equal to 0. Sorry. So this is 3m plus 4 equals 0, and 2m minus 7 equals 0. And when we do that, we're going to get subtract 4, divide by 3, and you get m is negative 4 thirds. Here we're going to add 7 and divide by 2, You get m equals 7/2. Now we're going to look at 35 through 50. And this one here is just going to be x equals 9, x equals -8. Again, set each one of these equal to 0. Same thing happens for this one, and we're going to get x equals 12, and x equals, you bring the 13 over, divide by 5, 13/5. And now we're into 41 through 42. This one here, you could have 5 over 13, 2 times, 2 times 10, 3, so 2 and 3/5 is an answer. And if you do the division here, it's 2, 5 goes on 3, 6, or 36 times. So 3 would be 0.6. So 2.6, x equals 2.6 is also acceptable. Okay, moving on to question number 41. This one's a quick chart. So factors of -72 that add up to 6. And that's going to be, what do you got? Okay, I did a little scratch work over here. 12 times 6 works, and the 6 is negative. Right? Yes. Okay. So, and I said yesterday, what's in the chart is the opposite as your answer. So x equals -12, x equals 6. Looks like it'll work for there. Okay. I'm not going to do the rest of these answers. I'm going to give you the answers. Just keep in mind on number 50, it's x squared plus positive 35x plus 306 equals 0. And for 47, this is 3c squared plus 8c minus 3 equals 0. Be careful with that one. The rest are pretty straightforward. So I'll give you the answers for 35, 38, 31, so multiples of 3. So 35. 35, 38, 41, 44, 47, 50. Those are your answers. And that should be enough for you to understand how to do the homework. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to go over the practice quiz. There was time to work on it. The review for the homework takes about 8 minutes. And you have time to work on it, and then maybe another 8 minutes here to review the answers. So a parabola blank has an axis of symmetry. Parabolas look like this, They're always symmetrical, so they always have an axis of symmetry. For number 2, so if this is the quiz on Friday, you're going to need to graph this. You know that it's a greater than sign and equal to. So it's, you know, it's going to be it's a greater than or equal to a positive number in front of x squared. So the positive number in front of x squared makes it a happy face. The equal to sign makes it solid, so it's a solid happy face. And the shading means inside. So you might not even have to graph this without, and you could figure out what the answer is. So letter A is dotted, so that's out. Letter C looks good. Letter B is a frown face. Okay, so this is greater than a positive x squared. This is greater than or equal to a positive x squared. And down here you have less than a negative x squared, so that's not what we want. And over here we have greater than or equal to a negative x squared. So it makes sense that your answer is letter C, it looks like. Yes. Okay, moving on to the next one. Solve the equation using square roots. Now be careful of this negative out here. what you want to do is send this to the other side. So you get 16 equals x squared. Then you're going to take the square root of both sides. And when you take the square root, you're going to get plus or minus 4 equals x. So be careful with that. You could bring the 16 over first, and now you have negatives on both sides of the equation, but that's going to make them positive, which again is x equals plus or minus 4. Be careful with these on the quiz tomorrow. No.
Do you want me to go pick it up somewhere?
No, I got it. I'm just going to tell class. Oh, I'm already recording. Okay, so apparently I copied the wrong test. So this is starting over with your paper. So hopefully you realize I did the wrong one, wrong video. This is the right video, part of the video. So parabola always has an axis of symmetry. I'm going to graph this one the same way. Is this the same question?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so now we're going to come down here. This is where the questions are different. Which of the graphs of the function has the narrowest graph? The narrowest graph will have the smallest fraction in front of it. That would be letter C. So smaller the number, the smaller the a value in front of x squared, the more. Well, I'm sorry, I messed this one up. Sorry, it's the other way around. This is the widest. This is the widest, and the narrowest would be the skinniest, which would be D. D would be the skinniest. Sorry about that. I just messed that up. Okay. So this would be the widest graph. The narrowest graph is the biggest number. So big is narrow. Small is wider. Widest. Or wider. All right. Okay. Moving on to the next one. Identify the vertex of the graph. Is this the correct one, right? Tell whether it's a minimum or max. Okay. So this is a minimum because it's a low point in the graph, and the vertex of the graph is right here, and that's going to be 0, negative 1, and it's a min. So that's going to be question number, or answer letter A. Okay. Moving on to the next page. Label the axis of symmetry and vertex and graph this. Now this is tricky because the axis is negative the b value, or the opposite of b, over 2a. In this case, a is 1, so 2a would be 2, and b is negative 1, so b, or negative b, would be positive 1. So you're going to get 1/2 as your axis of symmetry. So this one has an axis of symmetry at x equals 1/2. So does this one, x equals 1/2. Okay, do they all have it? Except for the last one. So these all have, this one does not have an axis of symmetry at 1/2. Okay, so now we have to figure out another value here. Is it a happy face parabola? Yes, it is. Okay, so it's happy because it's a positive in front of x squared. So it's a happy face parabola. If it was a negative, it would be the other way around. So that eliminates this one. Okay, now you have to figure out some values. What does a 1 produce in the function, or a 2, or a 4? We got to figure that out. Let's look at number 2. Let's see what 2 produces. If I put a 2 in here, so f of 2 equals 2 squared minus 2 minus 1, which is 4 minus 2 minus 1, which is 1. Okay, so 2 comma 1. That's right there. If I look at the other graph, 2 comma 1, well, that's pretty much 2 comma 1 also. All right, well, let's try the number 3 in it. Let's try 3 in there. So if we go to 3, and put a 3 in here. 3 squared minus 3 minus 1 is going to get me 9 minus 3 minus 1, which equals 5, I believe, right? Negative 4 plus 9 is 5. So which one of these has a 3 comma 5? That looks like that one does. Does this one have a 3 comma 5? Oh, this one does also. So these two graphs are the same answer. Oh, okay, I see what's going on here. If you look at the vertex and the axis is 0.5, the axis is 0.5, but the vertex is 0.5 negative 1.25, and this one is 0.5 1.5. So these two graphs look alike, but which one's labeled correctly? This one here is labeled correctly because the vertex is in the right spot. Okay, so be careful on the test tomorrow, or on the quiz on Friday. Solve each equation using square roots. I did this one on the other video, but we'll do it again. We can send the x squared over, and you're going to get x squared equals 16. You might say, well, that's backwards. Well, it's the same thing. So x equals plus or minus 4. That one works. Let's try this one here. We're going to move the 20 over. And when you move the 20 over, you get x squared equals negative 16. And you're going to want to say plus or minus 4, but really, you're going to take the square root of both sides, and you're taking the square root of a negative number, so it's no solution. So be careful. These two questions are very similar. They have different answers. Next, we're going to ask you to graph this equation. So we're going to graph using the axis of symmetry. We know that it's going to be a frown face solid graph, and the shading is going to be below. Okay, so I need the axis of symmetry. So it's negative. My b value is 2 over 2 times negative 1. So that's going to get me a positive 1 for my axis of symmetry. So I'm going to label my axis of symmetry a positive 1. I'm going to fill in my value. So I'm going to put a 1 in the equation. So I can do my chart. I believe I give you a space for a chart on the real test. Doesn't show on here. Maybe I don't. No, there's no space for a chart. Okay, so you're going to just have to write it in the space provided. So I'm going to put in a 1. That's in the middle of my table. Okay, I can put in a 0 and a negative 1 also. And I want to square x first. So I'm going to get 1, 0, 1. Next, I want to make x negative. So it's negative 1, 0, negative 1. Then I want to multiply x by 2. And it's this x here. So it's negative 2, 0, 2. And then I'm going to add 1 to it. And then I'm going to add up just these three values to get my values. So I get, this is going to give me 0 plus 0 plus 1 is 1. Negative 1 and negative 1 is, or negative 1 and positive 1 is 0. So that's negative 2. And this guy is going to be 2. So on my graph paper, I'm going to graph 1 comma negative 2 and 0, 1. I'm sorry, negative 1, negative 2, sorry. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 1, negative 2, 0, 1, and 1, 2. Okay, so first one is negative 1, negative 2, 1, 2, and 0, 1, 0, 1, and 1, 2, over 1 of 2. Okay, something's wrong. I probably did something wrong here. What did I do wrong? Oh, 0, 1 is not there. 0, 1 is right here. That's why. 0, 1 is right here. Sorry. So I noticed it wasn't the parabola. It didn't look correct. So hopefully you will do the same if you graph it wrong. So this guy is wrong. Okay. So on my parabola, and I know it's a frown face, so I know I'm going to go like this down. Okay, and then I'm just going to mirror these across. So I go over 1, I go 1 this way, so I go 1 that way. I go 1, 2 this way, so 1, 2, and I'm going to put a dot there. Okay, and then that gives me the other side of the parabola. And then I'm going to shade below. So we're going to shade inside here. My x-axis, my y-axis, my origin's there. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and I've just graphed the equation f of x. I like to call this y equals f of x equals y. F of x is less than or equal to negative x squared plus 2x plus 1. So we're required to do that on the quiz on Friday. Okay, the next, the final graph on the quiz, practice quiz, is a greater than. X is positive, so it's a happy face, but it's a dotted happy face, and the shading is above. Okay, so we need to find out what negative b over 2a is. That's negative 4 over 2 times 1 is 2, so that's negative 2 is my axis of symmetry. So I'm going to mark that on my graph paper. The axis of symmetry is at negative 2. I'm going to fill in a value. I'm going to figure out what negative 2 x squared plus 4x minus 1. What happens when I put a negative 2 in? Negative 2 squared plus 4 times negative 2 minus 1. This is going to be 4 plus negative 8 minus 1, which is negative 9. 4 minus 9, which is negative 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 5, I believe that is. 1, 2, 3, 5, okay. That's my first point. Then I'm going to pick a point to the right. Let me pick negative 1 right here. So let's figure that out. So I got x squared plus 4x minus 1. I'm going to put in negative 1 for that. And I'm going to get 1 plus negative 4 minus 1. That's going to get me a negative 4. So that's right here. And then my last one, I'm going to put in a 0, x squared plus 4x minus 1. And when x equals 0, I get minus 1. Okay, so I can clearly see this is a happy face parabola. Don't forget to dot your lines. And I should have mirrored it over. Here's the mirror. 1, 2. I was pretty good at doing that. And then I'm going to shade up inside the parabola, and this is going to get me f of x is greater than x squared plus 4x minus 1. So I believe I did those right. I'm going to check in a minute.